with red-hot stories from post-game. Interviews, analysis, defend the hour. Right here at the Growler.
All right, welcome into the walkout. Paul Dehner Jr., Jay Morrison, here with you. Jay, oh boy, we made it. We've made it, people. It has happened. The draft is completed. And I want to give a special shout out to Duke Tobin and the personnel staff.
Yes.
Not for any of the picks they made. It's whatever. We'll get to that in a second. No 7th round pick is absolutely God's gift to the scribes. Beat writers, rejoice. We're recording right now. The draft is still going on. So hopefully they're not jumping in for a surprise 7th round pick. We're here in the Bengals press conference room, and all of a sudden they're going to bust in because they want to talk about a 7th round Mr. Irrelevant, maybe a third linebacker for a good measure, right? Maybe they would go with. No, we want to thank them for that because right around the corner, Jay, it's so close. I can absolutely taste it right now. It's right there. It is best drink of the year time because the top shelf bourbon is going to be right around the corner. We've got stuff that we want to get to first. We want to talk about today's picks, 3 more picks.
Yeah.
And we've got a small contingent of some post-draft thoughts, things that we heard from around here, whether it be from players, coaches, and beyond, about what the Bengals did this weekend. I think there's a lot to digest there. We'll do some more of that tomorrow night. We'll have a Who Dey Nights at 8:00. That'll be live on the YouTube page. So make sure you come check that out. It'll also be in the podcast feed on Monday morning. So we'll have that for you. And we'll talk obviously a lot more about that on Tuesday down at BetMGM, Nation Kitchen and Bar, down at the Banks, where we will have our live show. We're giving away tickets. We are going to have free ice cream. There's going to be drink deals. It's going to be at 5:00 on Tuesday. Bengals Director of College Scouting, Mike Potts, is going to join us in Nation down there to talk all about draft picks, everything that went on this weekend. We have so many different things we want to talk to him about. That's going to be a blast. We certainly hope to see you down there then. On that note, though, let's talk about today's picks. So in the 4th round here, let's see, we get Barrett Carter, linebacker out of Clemson at 119 overall. And then in the 5th round, the Bengals come back and they go again into the offensive line with a double up. So double up linebackers, double up offensive line. Jalen Rivers out of Miami was the pick there at 153 overall. And they wrapped it up taking advantage of one of the most the deepest positions in this draft, as good of value as you can find, getting Taj Brooks, running back from Texas Tech at 193 overall in the 6th round. And here it is, 6 picks. It looks so empty compared to some years, but 6 picks, that's all it was. But a lot to say about those 6 picks. Let's talk about those before we get into some of the other topics later, Jay. I mean, Barrett Carter, first one off the board here in the 4th round. What was your initial reaction to that one?
Kind of like the Demetrius Knight one, the 2nd round linebacker, where it was a little puzzling at first. And then we sit in here and we listen to Al Golden talk about his vision for this defense, and it starts making a little more sense. I still I question that one a little bit, and not a knock on Barrett. Just the choice of the direction there for that pick. It was a little surprising. I thought we might see him go O-line again there, or go running back there, or safety. They never did draft a safety in this draft, which was a little bit of a surprise. But yeah, a little surprised by it. But then again, this happens all the time. That's why we interview these guys, and you talk to Al Golden. You kind of hear the vision for what he wants to do, to be multiple on defense, and to go big and be physical against some of these run heavy teams like Baltimore and that type of thing. And it starts to kind of not crystallize, but make a little more sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I didn't like the process here. I'm with you. This isn't about Carter as a player or as a pick. It just seems like it's kind of hard to believe. This is something we'll talk about later a little bit, that that they came through this entire offseason where it felt like maybe the number one need for them was some sort of a pass rushing defensive tackle, somebody to bring that push up the middle. And in free agency, they didn't address it. And in the draft, they didn't address it. And to double up at linebacker when you hadn't done that yet, and you had the defensive line depth that was here in this draft to bring somebody in, Josh Farmer from Florida State certainly stood out to me in that spot. There were other names though. Pick your pony there. I'm not really going to dissect who it should have been specifically. There were options, and to not check that box, it felt like you were purposely not checking one to kind of almost go a little bit of a luxury. I mean, you signed Oren Burks. I mean, Joe Bocci's just out there. If you're looking for guys to be your third, fourth, and fifth linebacker, somebody who they really like and know. I mean, I just feel like there's other ways you could go with that. It's so hard to find a pass rushing defensive tackle, and guys come from the fourth round and have impact there all the time. I mean, we talked a lot about Geno Atkins this week in award number 97. He was a fourth round defensive tackle. It can happen. I didn't like doubling up at linebacker there. And maybe I look back on it and we all say, man, they're going to be thrilled that they took Barrett Carter this year or next year, or if anybody gets hurt, who knows? But I would have liked to have seen one more in the bucket there, the defensive tackle. To me, that was I thought it was a process misstep, even if beyond whether Carter ends up being a success or not.
Yeah, I mean, part of it with what your piece about the defensive tackle, I thought it was interesting where Al talked today about, well, we can kick Miles inside. We can kick Shamar Stewart inside. He's got a plan to kind of address that. We already know they can move Cam Sample in there. Joseph Osai can go in there. We talked about how he looks bigger this year and more rugged to rush from the inside more. So that part of it made sense. And then also you start thinking about it, and it's like it kind of felt like the last decade when they kept bringing in the cornerbacks to build for the future. Is this an eventual Logan Wilson replacement where, Logan's only got a couple years left on his contract? He had the injury last year. It almost felt like a contingency pick as much as this is what we need this year kind of pick.
Yeah, where Demetrius Knight was a Jermaine Pratt one for one, clearly. But this could be more of a contingency pick in terms of, also replacing Akeem Davis-Gaither's role. You get the special teams impact there, and that's important. But yeah, maybe there is a worry about the durability of Logan Wilson, who's had a bunch of injuries. You don't know how somebody's going to come back from the type of injuries that he's had. That's all fair and good. And I love sub-package, NASCAR package, push Stewart and Osai inside and have Murphy and Hendrickson on the outside, or whatever your combination is. I love that. I love that on third down. You know what I also want to do? Rush the passer on second down. Yeah. I want to have somebody that has that juice on 2nd and 7, where you don't feel like you have to go sub-package. You can have somebody that can do it and keep growing that for the future there. I just feel like it seems that concept has been devalued, as they've just said. It's more important that these guys are run stoppers, and we'll find pass rushers off the edges and have them kick inside and passing that. It's fun. I just would like to see one of those exist on the roster. And so to me, that was my only problem with that pick, not with Carter specifically as a player.
3 Tech is my first round pick in my 2026 mock draft.
Yeah, I think we'll spend this year talking about it. I mean, it's how can you not? At some point, that you know that's going to be a thing they're going to come into next year and still be hunting at this point because they don't have one now. Jalen Rivers, nice value here in round 5. Somebody that they really like. They met with him before. They brought him in for a 30. So they did a lot of work on Jalen Rivers. He's versatile, tackle, guard mix. He can kind of do a little bit of both there. I think they project him probably to be in the mix for that swing tackle job, but also maybe can be in the guard battle at some point too. The versatility is going to be key with any backup right now. And it's a 5th round, so there's a flyer nature to it, but he seems to be made of all the right stuff, and you hope that you can get the most out of him. And I like the coming back. I mean, they needed to have 2 rounds of offensive line in this draft. I like coming back and kind of offsetting Fairchild, who's the clear guard, and he's going to be. They want him to be left guard day 1, and bring in somebody that can maybe be a tackle of the future, a swing tackle, but also have the versatility to help you out in in the background for right now. I like them kind of touching a lot of bases there.
And he very much could win this right guard job. And it was interesting where, they, as soon as they make the pick and they put out the tweet on social media and they list him as a tackle, and Jalen said, they told me I was playing guard. And I'm sure they did talk to him about both, but he did. He can do both, and he's another guy like Dylan Fairchild that kind of specializes in pass protection. And that was, yes, they can run block. They need to get better at run blocking, but two offensive linemen that's how they got here as pass protectors. Going to be welcome news for Joe Burrow and for a lot of you guys out there that have been complaining about this since Joe Burrow got here. I mean, I just looked it up before for a story I put up. He is in the top 5 in hits taken, sats taken, and dropbacks since he arrived in 2020. And he missed 13 games during that time, and he's still way up there at the top. So, yes, very important to double down there. You're right. They needed the swing tackle element there. Fairchild, I think, was a great pick, but he is strictly a guard. So this felt like a smart move in the 5th round to get a guy that can do both.
Yeah, and you hope it hits. Again, this is sort of new process, finding somebody who they feel like fit with Scott Peters' system, who likes the way that Rivers plays, a specialization in pass pro to kind of lean into that. That's what he does best. And, you can't go wrong there with bringing in somebody. What they do best is protect the passer in an offense that's going to be the most pass heavy in the entire NFL. So then you get to round 6 and you get to something that we've kind of been talking about for a long time, like the meeting of need of, look, the back end of that running back room is empty. The Zach Moss thing notwithstanding, that didn't really change the concept of the fact that they needed to kind of look for the next Chase Brown. And you thought, I sort of pinpointed round 5, but that would be in a normal year. This was no normal year. When you got to the round 5 spot, there was 6 or 7 running backs who you're like, wow, this looks – Devin Neal was there, and Damian Martinez was there, and Taj Brooks was there, and a number of different running backs that all kind of came off the board soon after were all sitting there. And so that sort of pushes that back to when a normal year, maybe around 5, you're making that pick. Now you're getting somebody like Taj Brooks in round 6, who's probably a 4th, 5th round type value that you're getting here, who was just a beast. He's a block of granite and has tons of his agility scores are through the roof, and you watch him play and you see it. I mean, his lateral mobility is incredible. He did torch the UC Bearcats for 172, but he torched just about everybody. Back-to-back 1,500-yard seasons. He's had 27 touchdowns in the last 2 years. I mean, he is just a guy who produces. Maybe he doesn't have the breakaway home run long speed like Chase Brown, but he's got this, turn 5 into 15 ability. I actually think Khalil Herbert's a decent little comp for him in terms of the way that he plays. We only saw a touch of Khalil Herbert here last year, but I do think that that's kind of the style that you can see from Taj Brooks. Now you really love that room. Yeah. I think you look at that and you're like, okay, Samaje Perine, Zach Moss, 2 vets, Chase Brown and Taj Brooks, 2 young guys. You feel like you're maybe cycling to the future there potentially. A lot of nice skill sets in that room. Love the running back room right now.
This pick actually really surprised me, and not because they took a running back, but because of the running back they took. I mean, there's a lot to like about him, but the really surprising thing is they love these running backs that split carries in college, that come in without a lot of wear and tear. He played 5 years in college, 879 carries in college. That could be a little bit of a concern. You're not asking him to be a bell cow and pick up a lot of the load early and maybe ever, but that one kind of surprised me because there was so many other running backs out there. They had their choice of guys, even in the 6th round. And I found his conference call with us very amusing. If that dude runs as fast as he talks, this is going to be a special. I mean, I don't know if it was just because he was excited or if that's the way he talks at all, but it's like, oh my gosh, take a breath. He was just rapid fire talking. So it's going to be really interesting to see once he gets here and gets settled down, if that's just the way he talks or if that was his excited, I just got drafted voice.
The only thing I'll say about the bell cow conversation is that wasn't Chase Brown. Chase Brown was a bell cow. Chase Brown was an absolute workhorse at Illinois and came in. And I think maybe dispelled some of that for them was they saw the pop and the juice he still had when he came here and say, you know what? Nothing wrong with that. And it makes you a proven commodity in some respects. And so I like the Brooks pick. Really, any of those running backs, I just feel like in a normal year, you're not finding somebody of his skill set and talent in round 6. And that's a great job of taking advantage of what the draft gives you in any given season. And that is what it gave you this year. Let's talk about what the draft gave the Bengals this year. Jay, let's go a little bit into our let's start general here. Your number one takeaway from this entire draft. It could be a player, it could be a theme, it could be a position group, it could be whatever you want it to be. What's your number one takeaway when you're thinking about what transpired over the last 3 days?
I'm going to say Back to the Future. And it felt like this draft was about building the roster the way they tried to do it when they first got here. Mm-hmm. The character guys, the winners, the bigger school programs. Not that they ever went totally away from it, but they did deviate a little bit. The Burton picks, some other picks where it kind of got away from that core, I don't know, strategy, belief, whatever you want to call it. But that happens. You make the run to the Super Bowl in 2021, and then in 2022, you get back to the AFC Championship game, and you're like, all right, we've got everything in place. Now we can start taking some chances. And this felt like pivoting back where we want guys that we know are dependable, that are the highest character. I mean, honestly, if I know they're drafting to make their roster better, but if their sole intent was to make our lives better, this draft would have looked the exact same. These guys are fantastic.
Yeah.
Just talking to them, the maturity, and I really do think it is a plus draft in terms of character and makeup. And yeah, it all has to translate onto the field. But it did feel like it was kind of a full circle moment. And even you go back to that 2021 draft and the 2020 draft with the tripling up with linebackers, and they double up with linebackers and taking 2 offensive linemen early. All of that, this wasn't early, 3rd and 5th round, but they did take 2 offensive linemen. It did feel like a little bit of a retro draft.
I would agree. And that's my number one takeaway, and that was a draft where Al Golden was in the lead, right? Yeah. I mean, and so when you're talking about Al Golden being there and being in the lead, it makes sense when you're rebuilding this defense. He wanted to rebuild it with a certain way. And to me, the line that I've been using is circus out, responsible adults in.
Yeah.
Last year was a circus, Jay. It was. From the hold-ins to the trade requests to hat watch to losing to the Patriots to the defense to what missed tackles to the Jermaine Burton saga to Dejon Anthony to the Sheldon Rankins stuff, the Sheldon Rankins and the free agency whiff and everything else that came with it, and Joe Burrow's playing at MVP level and the defense can't stop anybody, and then we're talking about contracts in Dallas, and like it was an absolute 3-ringer, man.
Yeah.
And so I think you go through that as an organization and you say, enough. Let's get clowns out, man. And let's bring it. And these guys, that is the thing that I took away. It's not like characters and captains. Like that's fine. That's stuff. There's a real maturity and responsibility and account. I mean, guys that are married with kids, the Demetrius Knight story.
Unreal.
I mean, this dude is an absolute, this is why. So when people talk about the Knight reach, okay, and we'll say that it's because, if you're watching ball, if you're watching tape and maybe even you read the beast and you're like, okay, seems like a pretty good, solid dude, became a captain, plays, okay, I see him at 100 or whatever. If you are looking to bring a culture setter, a real sense of this is the type of person you want to build around, this is the guy. I mean, he's like doing DoorDash after games in Charlotte to try to feed his family and feed his kids, and talking about like being hungry and the need to do that and do any means necessary. And he worked his way from being a quarterback to becoming a linebacker, and he looks like the strongest damn linebacker you've ever seen in person. And he speaks about this responsibility and being an old soul and listening to old music and writing scripts and reading books and just how seriously he takes the work and football. And what Zach Taylor said to us afterwards when we kind of talked about this theme is hungry guys that feel the urgency, that love football. They love talking about football, and the other stuff, the stuff that was really so much a part of, unfortunately for them, the identity of this franchise over the last year or two, not a part of any of these guys. And I think it's trying to hit the reset on that. And in the same respect, man, in free agency. Now, I didn't love their free agency, but they bet on people that they knew explicitly, period. They didn't bring in people that they didn't feel like they had any handle on the character. Even when they went outside, it's people that they knew. Jerry Montgomery had known Slayton, right? You bring in people from the outside. Okay, yeah, we have a good feel for that person. We re-sign a bunch of our guys that we know. We think BJ Hill can be a leader for a young room. Let's invest in that. Let's have that personality here. You're going to have Jermaine Burton's still here. By the way, here a lot. By the way, he's all weekend here early, just hanging out. So whatever there, but you have Jermaine Pratt is going to be gone, and you're going to have new players in to replace him, and you're going to have changeover in other spots, and you're kind of cutting some of the fat and replacing it all and with this back to the core of what you were when you built it. I agree. I don't know how you come away from this weekend without that not being the major, resounding takeaway and thought, because I think it was clearly conscious and with purpose that they went that direction.
Yeah, I agree. And then the Samaje Perine signing in free agency, again, the circle back to where they were when they built this thing. And so, that is, I think we're aligned on that. That is the biggest takeaway.
Favorite pick for you?
Yeah, back to Knight. Credit to Kelsey Conway. She's the one that asked him about the DoorDash stuff. Kelsey out there having the best drink of the year right now, waiting on us.
In front of us.
Yeah. But he was so authentic in talking about that. And that's a word. When we were talking to Al Golden about Barrett Carter, he said that was the one word he wrote down about him was authentic. And that goes for Demetrius Knight too. I don't know how many of you guys saw the pictures or the videos when he got drafted. It's just the tears rolling down his face. And a lot of the time it's kind of a production, and maybe they're not all authentic, and I'm sure they're great moments for all these guys, but some of them feel like they're putting on a show for the cameras, and he was not. And then when he was recounting, I think you're the one that asked him if, what if I told you 5 years ago that you're going to be the number 49 pick? And he started welling up again, thinking about it. He's like, I probably would have laughed or cried. And he said that as he's starting to cry a little bit. And just the whole DoorDash story is incredible, where they've got a baby, they're in college. He on the weekends they can't get into the facility to get food. He doesn't have the formula's expensive. His NIL money at Charlotte's like next to nothing. It's barely enough to cover the rent. They're trying to figure out where the food's going to come, and he goes out and plays his ass off on a Saturday, and then puts the baby to bed and tells his wife, I don't want to do it, but we got to eat. And he goes out and he starts delivering DoorDash for extra money. And that was a big reason he went to South Carolina. It wasn't because I've outplayed. I'm too good for the AAC. I need to be in the SEC. It was like, okay, there's NIL availabilities out there. And he told South Carolina he didn't want a big deal. He just wanted to be able to pay his rent and have some money left over for necessities. And there's just so much to like about that guy. Yep. And I know it was kind of last night, it was what a reach. I don't like this pick. And it started turning once we started talking to the coaches and we talked to him on the phone. And then today it just went fully the other way, where it went from from the questionable picks to my favorite pick of this draft.
Yeah, you get it, how if you meet this guy and you really start to know him a little bit, how you're sold. And you're like, we can't not get him, right? Yeah. You understand how this is the type of person that we should be rebuilding this defense around. And so I'm with you on that. And we talked about it last night a little bit. I like how Friday ended up coming together for them. They checked both their boxes. It was in a way that we might not have expected.
And it flipped a little bit.
Flipped where you were talking about Fairchild and you're talking about Knight rather than talking about maybe Ratledge earlier or Watts or some other that have been sort of seen to be the main connections there. I like what they came away with those two guys, because my favorite pick is Dylan Fairchild, and I talked a lot about it last night. I love recognizing your failures and changing your ways and saying, we're going to do things differently, and we're going to hire Scott Peters, and he's going to be different. And we're going to let him pick guys and target those and invest in those guys. We're going to invest in them earlier than we traditionally have in offensive linemen. They just haven't done that in rounds 2 and 3 in the last decade or so, hardly at all. And when they have, it hasn't gone well. But I think saying this is what he wants, this is the guy he thinks is great, let's go ahead and go do it, and let's give him what he wants and let him try to build this thing, and maybe it will give us different results than the crappy ones we've had. And so I like that, and for that fact of the process of recognizing that, I like Fairchild, who again, when you meet, you're like, yeah, you get it. Like, why would anybody not buy into this guy? He seems to be totally about the work, about football, about the right stuff, big school, won games. Seems to be the type of grounded person that you want to get in there. And so I think you know, without seeing him play a lick yet, you know, it only takes one bad practice to be like, well, they better figure out another plan. I'd be pretty surprised at this point if he wasn't starting opening day, just kind of knowing the way this thing has set up and what they feel like they have in him.
And he is not married like Demetrius Knight, or is he? Because he talked about last night on his conference call with us that going through the draft process was like dating, and now he's in love and he's married to the Bengals, and you kind of get that sense that that is going to be what his everything is, that he's going to put everything in, just like Demetrius Knight. He's not going to take this new contract. He's good. You know, Chris Jenkins last year, the 49 pick, 4 years, $7.9 million. Demetrius probably got a little bit more than that. He's not going to say I've made it and coast.
Yeah.
That's a guy that's going to work.
You certainly hope, and for Fairchild, you know that protecting for Joe Burrow is the honor of his life, and I think Bengals fans would agree. It is the honor of your life. All right, least favorite of all the picks.
Yeah, back to Carter. I don't want to bang on him. It was a surprising one, and it's kind of it's hard to find one that you really don't like to pick a least favorite, and he's the one that just, it's positionally, value wise. That's the reason that's my least favorite.
Yeah, I would say I have a different one, but you know, the one thing about Friday night is with Knight is could they have moved back? They don't trade back. You know, no trades here, which I think was a surprise. We know Duke Tobin wanted to add picks. We know they had some boxes that went unchecked. Could they have recognized the market there, moved back? I think they were scared that the team market value was going to be different than public, and because they felt differently about it, and they went with their gut on that by staying there, being worried that someone was going to come up in front of them. But you know, a chance to add an extra 4th round pick that they could have done something with. Maybe they get Josh Farmer to go with Barrett Carter if you make that move and you can check all of your boxes, but they didn't want to take that risk. So that maybe if there's a process there I didn't like, that would be part of it. I would say my least favorite is Shamar Stewart, and I've obviously been very defensive of him, and I get it, and I feel like there's a lot to like. I feel like the vitriol that's been out there has been over the top about that pick. I don't have a problem with it, but it's still is the fact that it is projection on a team that's looking for something now and needs something now in pass rush and had options in pass rush for now in front of them and on that board. Now, all of them have issues, but this is one that you know you're banking on more of a long-term model with versus something that could be a little bit more immediate. And I don't have, you know, the high upside, especially if it starts to hit quick, or even by the second half of the season, you hope that maybe he's a guy that can become a breakout playoff star and have that really take off in his career. But maybe that would be advancing his arc faster than you should. That's the only reason. I don't mind betting on traits. I don't mind betting on Stewart. It's just at this time and place, you know, when you look at, because I like the rest of the draft and the way it felt. You know, if that instead of Stewart, that was If
Mike
they,
Green.
well, no, but he wouldn't have fit with this group, I don't think.
True.
But yeah, but I would say, even Walter Nolan with his character stuff, it was not the same type. You would love if he would have made it there, or Derek Harmon, right? Like, I know the injury thing was real with him, and they were scared by that. So how scared were they by that? I don't know. Pittsburgh took him a couple picks later. We'll see where that goes. Where that would be more of like an immediate fill, or even Starks, right? More of an immediate fill, and a captain all character team type guy too, as opposed to Stewart that has such a big wide range. I was kind of doubles guy in this draft in my mind, and high floor. This is not. This is swinging out of your shoes for the fences, and if it hits, man, they're feeling great. But so that's for that reason. I'm not as in love with it.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, let's go. Let's see, where are we at? We're getting. We can save a couple of these. How about one more? We'll just do one more takeaway, and we'll pull a couple other things to our show on Who Dey Bites, because you can sense it in me. I'm talking fast. I'm just crossing stuff off the rundown because I can taste it. It's drink of the year time. One final thought, or if you have a good story or anything that you just want to share before we sign off and go have a drink.
I guess another theme that from this draft, and it's more tangential, but a lot of faith in Geno Stone.
Yeah.
To not take a safety at all. That really surprised me. Where even, okay, you don't take Starks in the first round, you don't take Watson in the second round. They're going to get one at some point. No. So we'll see. Maybe taking two linebackers and beefing up the D line, they're devaluing the importance of tackling from your safety in Geno Stone. Or maybe they just think that it was Lou's system wasn't a good fit for him, and that Al's got a better vision for him. It still comes down to angles and actually wrapping guys up and getting them on the ground. And that would be my last takeaway here, is just really, really surprised that they didn't get a safety. Maybe they go get 3 in undrafted free agency, but still you're not counting on a guy like that to come in and replace Geno Stone and start on day one.
No, pretty clear. Geno Stone's their guy there.
Yeah.
And you wonder if they're going to be bemoaning missed tackles and stuff like that, and not enough playmaking from their safety when it's week 8, right? And maybe that's the one spot in the defense that is struggling. Or maybe, I do think that part of this, though, I feel like they really liked his takeaway from the season, the debrief with him.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed to have a recognition of where he had failed, a real clear desire to get better and to be a better player and to be a better tackler, and understanding that he has to be all about that in order to stick around here. I think that might have been part of him selling them on keeping him.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if you do get something closer to the version that he was in Baltimore, or even the version that he was the last 5 weeks of the season, which weren't spectacular, but they were much more solid than they had been before that, you probably take that. And when you consider some of the other needs that they've had, it goes down the priority list. But I'm with you, still surprising for me.
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe they take the Jermaine Pratt money when they cut him and roll that into Justin Simmons, and we get to watch Charlie chug a beer. That was part of the deal in free agency. Right. It doesn't matter when it happens. If they sign Justin Simmons, Charlie's going to chug a beer. Maybe that will happen live tomorrow night.
Do it for us. Do it for us, Duke. And for Charlie. My last thing is it weird? I kind of like what's happening in the offensive line room. I'm not supposed to. I'm not allowed to, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like, you're not allowed to be anyone watching this team and having watched it for as long as I have and like what you're seeing in the offensive line room. I'm intrigued by Scott Peters.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they seem to be very aligned on philosophy. I like the possibility of Jalen Rivers. I like the competition free-for-all everywhere. I like that they have their 3 starters clear, and everything else has a bunch of people all in a competition. And they could add more. I mean, they could go add a Dalton Reisner or somebody tomorrow and even add more names to it. But you have Lucas Patrick, who has plenty of starts in this league. You have Cody Ford, who they like, and they would like to see more at guard. And I like Cody Ford as your 6th.
Yeah.
Right. And I like that they went in. I like Fairchild. I like that they got versatility in Jalen Rivers, who maybe he can kind of be something. I like the idea of Scott Peters having optimism about Cordell Volson even in this mix. I like that you have all of this competition for these spots. That is where you can somebody rise up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where you do find people. That's how you do what the Bengals have not done, which is sort of develop and find these guys. You got to get them competing. You got to open it up with a bunch of people that all have where you can see paths to the end for all of them and let them duke it out and see how they improve in the process. I think I kind of like what's happened in the offensive line. I might regret that after the first padded practice. So I reserve that right to take this take back and blame it on whatever I'm about to have a drink of after this. But I will say, I think I might kind of like some of what they're doing, and I'm very intrigued to see how Scott Peters takes this group forward, if maybe he can be part of an answer for them and for Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Kind of interesting, too. Another full circle moment where Dylan Fairchild dropped in today that he was working with Paul Alexander, the former Bengals offensive
Sorry,
line
Bengals
coach.
fans.
Yeah,
I know. Bengals fans are like, what?
No, that's the Jeffrey Carmen guy. But no, it was interesting that that name came up, and then he knew it too. He's like, former coach here for a while, and we're all like, yeah, we know.
We know. Well, we've gone down this road before. Don't tell people that. All right. On that note, this has been awesome.
Yep.
Thank you guys for watching and listening and reading everything on Sports Illustrated, on The Athletic, and everything everywhere. Your guys' support means the world to us, and that's why we keep doing it. We'll be back tomorrow night, Houday nights, 8:00. We'll kind of be doing some more big picture reactions. Charlie, Mo, anybody that wants to drop by, we'll come on and we'll talk a little bit about this weekend. And then hopefully we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Please come down. We love having everybody down and saying hi to everybody and talking about the draft and talking ball and talking to Mike Potts. And we think you guys will all love it. The podcast is going to be released in the audio feed. So you will be able to get it down the line, but coming down and being able to talk to us afterwards off the record, talk to Potts, and maybe some of the other scouts might make their way down in there too. It's just a great time. And if you want to go catch a Tuesday night Reds game, you can go do that after, or you can hang out and have some pops too. So anyway, hopefully we will see you down there Tuesday at BetMGM, Nation Kitchen and Bar down at the Bank's a great place to go before any big game or any big event down there. So we hope to see you. All right. On that note, it awaits. Absolutely. Thank you all for listening and watching, and best drink of the year time. Have a good one.